Good morning students, this is your teacher Neelam Elawat and today we'll start with the next chapter, that is your biological classification. And I hope you are clear with the chapter number 1. If there is any doubt you can consult with me, right? And today you had your exam also. So dear students, be very particular regarding the chapters that we are finishing in the videos. And if there is any doubt, any query, you can talk to me. And if there is any student who is still not responding, please I request you that you start responding, because it is your own benefit. You cannot ignore your studies, right everyone? So let's continue with the chapter, that is chapter number 2. So today we'll introduce this chapter, and the chapter is biological classification, right? In the chapter 1 we've talked about the various, you can say the very simple concepts like what is classification, what is taxonomy, what are the taxonomical aids, what is the hierarchy of classification, right? And in this we'll a little bit further we'll talk about the biological classification. Now this chapter basically deals with the various kingdoms like kingdom Monera, the kingdom Protista, kingdom Fungi, Plantae, kingdom Animalia, the viruses, viroids and lichens. So this is a brief outline of this chapter. We'll be talking about these particular you can say the informations, right, one by one. Today we'll just introduce this chapter. Now initially the early classification, it has been believed that the early classification and the most important classification were done by the 3 people. There were 3 people involved who started this classification concept. First was Aristotle, second was Linnaeus, and third is the most important one, R.H. Whittaker. These 3 scientists, they are considered to be very, very significant in the classification part. Now very first, the Aristotle. His classification is considered to be the earliest classification, and he used the morphological characters to classify plants into trees, herbs and shrubs. So basically he classified the plants into trees, shrubs and herbs. This was the plants. The plants were divided into 3, and the animals into 2 groups, those who possess blood and those who do not. So plants were classified into trees, shrubs and herbs, while animals, they were classified into 2 categories, one which are having the blood and the one which are not having the blood. Okay, so 2 categories. Now this was initially the first and the earliest classification that was done by the Aristotle. The second classification was given by the Carl Linnaeus. He classified the living organisms into 2 kingdoms, Plantae and Animalia. There were 2 kingdoms, Plantae and Animalia. But this system was not highly acknowledged because it did not distinguish between the eukaryotes and prokaryotes. There was no distinction between the eukaryotes and prokaryotes. There was no distinction between the unicellular and multicellular organisms. And further, it could not distinguish between the photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic organisms. So because of these drawbacks, that it could not distinguish between the important characteristics like unicellular, multicellular, prokaryotic, eukaryotic and photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic, so this failed. Then came the most important classification, which we even studied today. That was given by Whittaker. So it is also called as Whittaker's classification, and he proposed a 5 kingdom classification. Another name of his classification is 5 kingdom classification. So he classified all the organisms into 5 kingdoms. The first was Monera. Monera is the first kingdom. Second, Protista. Third is Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. So basically these are your 5 kingdoms: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. Furthermore, he used certain characteristics for making his classification, and these characteristics are: first, the cell structure. Cell structure means how the organization of the cell is there. What are the various parts? Then the way body organization, whether the organism is unicellular or multicellular. Then mode of nutrition, whether the organism has autotrophic or heterotrophic. And then the reproduction, what are the method by which the organism reproduces, like unisexual and sexual method of reproduction. So based on these 4 characteristics, that is your cell structure, body organization, mode of nutrition, and the method of reproduction, these were the organisms, all living organisms were classified into 5 kingdoms, right? They were classified into 5 kingdoms. They were classified into 5 kingdoms, and those kingdoms are, we just talked about, Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia, right everyone? So these are the criteria. This was the criteria which he used to classify the organisms, and this was considered to be highly a successful classification. It is even read today and followed. Okay, so let's come to the 5 kingdoms. Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. Let's study the characteristics. Now he has used the cell type, means whether it is a prokaryotic or eukaryotic, whether cell wall is present, absent, nuclear membrane, body organization means cellular, unicellular, multicellular, mode of nutrition, autotrophic or heterotrophic. So we will study the characteristics of each kingdom. Coming to the Monera. See, Monera is a prokaryotic. Prokaryotic means it do not have well developed nucleus, it do not have the properly developed cell organelles. So it is prokaryotic, right? And the cell wall is present, and it is made up of polysaccharide plus amino acids. So first, the cell wall is present. Secondly, the nuclear membrane is absent. Body organization, that means it is cellular, only cells are present. And then it is autotrophic nutrition, autotrophic as well as heterotrophic. Some of them they are autotrophic, some of them they are heterotrophic. Second is Protista. Protista is eukaryotic. Okay, Protista is eukaryotic. Cell wall may be present, may be absent. Nuclear membrane is 100% present. Again, only cells are present, and it is also autotrophic and heterotrophic. It shows both the characteristics, like some of them they prepare their own food, and some of them they depend on others for their food. Okay, fungi is also eukaryotic. Then it has cell wall is made up of chitin, nuclear membrane is present, and it is multicellular. See, now the cells have arranged themselves to form groups, or you can say there is more than one cell is present, so it is multicellular, and groups have been arranged to form loose tissues, and they are saprophytic or they are heterotrophic. Saprophytic means they feed on dead and decaying matter. Plantae, again eukaryotic. Cellulose, cell wall is present and it is made up of cellulose. Nuclear membrane is present. Tissues and organs are present, and they are 100% autotrophic, because Plantae means all the plants. Plants belong to this category. So all plants, they can perform the process of photosynthesis, that is, they can prepare their food. Animalia is again eukaryotic. Animalia means all your animals. So cell wall is absent, nuclear membrane is present, and they have tissues, organs, an organ system, and they are mostly heterotrophic. Animals cannot make their food. They depend on others for their food. Clear everyone? So 5 kingdoms along with their important characteristics, right? So coming to your homework. First of all, you will make notes of this topic that we have discussed, and then you will read the page numbers 16 and 17. Just go through these pages, underline the important points, and if there is any doubt, any query, you must call me, talk to me. I'll be 100% solving your problems. Okay, dear students? Okay, so bye everyone.